Just to let everyone know, today is a very powerful show. It is more than action-packed, so this is something that you're definitely going to want to relax in on. Get yourself together in your environment. Make sure that you're not able to be disturbed. There's going to be some disturbances probably around you in relation to maybe somebody trying to distract you from this. Just remember, you have the archives. And so let it breathe again as I check around and make sure that the streams are live, that everybody is tuning in, things are well. And as I said before, we're also on Instagram Live for the first time, just seeing what's up with the audience over there. We have 15,000 Instagram subscribers, so we're going to see what that 15,000 is about and how much the change occurs in the world right now today. So let me turn this thing on. What's up, family? It's great to see you. This is an amazing time, wholeness. I actually never thought today would come, to be honest. There are things that I'm aware of that, just like a teacher who is instructed to teach basic mathematics, that means you don't get into trigonometry, you don't get into calculus, because that is not what you were told to instruct. And for me on this path for the last decade, it's been extreme growth for my being in realizing not only the things that we face together, but also how we face them, how every single thing, like every single judgment that we have, every single reflection can be dissected and put into a great level of reason and awareness of who you truly are and where you're at that point. So, when we find ourselves judging and hating and all these different things, that's where we are at that point. So that's what we inherit. And thus, for thousands of years now, not even that time is real, but for thousands of years, we've been enduring this low vibratory primitive frequency by choice. And today, for the first time, because there has been a supreme mastery over all mysteries, we will be able to, for the first time, reveal something that has been hidden for sure, has been kept secret, and has been the linchpin to the downfall of the entire planet and possibly adjacent planets on into the cosmos. And that is the total awareness of who we are and what we're capable of doing. So for those who may be on this camera, which I'm looking at right now, if you notice me gazing off, this is because there's another camera, and that camera is capturing everything primarily that is going to YouTube and going to Facebook and going to all of our other channels. I also have a monitor here to where I'm able to see what's going on to determine if my stream has been cut or if I need to pause or whatever needs to be done. There will be no questions today. I will not be reading the thread at all, just to remain on track. And again, if you are on this stream towards the end of this presentation, broadcast, awakening, ascension point, pinnacle, peak, waypoint, during the transition process where I'm going to reveal also my brother Martin Kinney's work, you will not be able to see that video if you're on Instagram because it is not piped into our main system. So I'm advising you at least get it in queue, or at some point jump on to YouTube/Innerstanding, or my Facebook page for those that know me /Innerstand, I believe it is. Let's get this too confused. And you will see the rest of this presentation there. Now, today's presentation is not at all meant to be exhaustive about the topics presented. In fact, we have the entire next year coasting into our ascension and expansion point to give the fine morsels, but more people will be doing that than just me. What I'm revealing today is a key that unlocks all doors. All the mysteries that have been proclaimed and all the buffoonery that has been going on with the mysteries, if you are able to assess what I'm telling you today, it ends. It ends for you. And you will learn after this especially that being so concerned about what is going on in the other ripples and the wavelengths that are around you and ignoring what is going on with your own vehicle will be detrimental. And that awareness will allow you to be much more tuned in, much more sharpened up, and much more in tune about your experience. So I'm going to my main camera here. So the first thing I want to start this off with is how we always start this off, and that is first and foremost with an honoring to our ancestors, because again, personally, I didn't think that we were going to make it to this point. I didn't think I would ever be able to reveal to the world the knowledge of the Tetragrammaton, because it was too confusing, too powerful. There was too many works already about it, and many of those works misleading. There were entire organizations that said they represented it, but represented the external version, which has a tendency to even have the same symbol. Sometimes the only difference is a straight line and a curve. And I always felt that in my mission that those higher truths were reserved for either this point, which I was still questioning whether we would reach, or even points beyond, because you will learn about potent knowledge, especially if it's not bought in the right type of alchemical preparation. It could be disastrous for you. Not everybody else. Forget everybody else. You. If you bring knowledge or bring wisdom and something about it is false or something about it is misleading, all of that reflux current, which is the blowback of the electromagnetic fields and the actions that have taken place, because only the actions are the most important, especially on these planes. That blowback you will keep getting until you clarify your knowledge and wisdom, and that always pushes an elder. It always pushes a seer to perfect their knowledge and their level of awareness, especially before they start telling others about it. In addition, we've come into a time where the level of power that I'm going to be talking about today matches exactly the mission at hand. And generally, when the mission at hand is not equating to the power that you're bringing, then there's going to be some imbalances. And so the reason why I'm disclosing this truth today is for everyone to tap into the awareness of the time that we were in and how it's so important to us. And while some may be in the low vibratory frequencies, which is the past, we are transferring a message from the future to the past to let you know time draws nigh. The party is already happening. The great expanse is opened up. But if you don't make that decision to enter into that space, then you will remain in this current moment of an impending death and desolation and miscarriage of the dimension due to mistreatment of nature and the divine feminine and the children that reside on this plane. So let's go. Again, just bringing everything in center on our ancestors who are us. When we get on that frequency, thank you for bringing a unified message to the human family, so that way we can return to being like you, which is us. Just like trees, we first drop off the tree, you got the fruit, even on you. Think about it. How important is the fruit? The fruit is actually for really something else. It's the seed that people discard that becomes another tree. Think about that at all times when I'm bringing this to you today. Also, understand that there is absolutely nothing to fear. Many here have already discovered and been in touch with their dream body, or at least seeing themselves in the dream, flipping all around, doing all sorts of wild things that they've never even thought that they were capable of doing, speaking different languages, karate, flying, all these different things. So trust that that is you and more, no matter how much you want to separate yourself from that reality and truth of your power. But it is also that space in which you experienced that you're capable of doing that is more closer to the realms that I'm going to speak of today, the transitional realms, because everyone will transition. Also, giving condolences and great stages of thanks and honor to my cat, who decided to leave us this Saturday or Friday. And just the experience that I had with that cat and how it also taught me that, hey, while you're looking at the humans all the time and thinking they're going to be the ones to go next all the time, some of the animals are going too. Because when you see how they behave and how they act and how much love they share, if the whole goal is connection and unity, then they got it. So just wanted to clear that space and begin what I feel like is a great opening to the mysteries. So first thing is, time is frequency. There's no rush today. You can watch this for the rest of your existence if you wish. And it's all that sometimes the expectations that we think about in our minds that others have of us that don't allow us to transcend into what we truly need to transcend into. So we won't allow that to happen today. And I'll take it at the pace of how knowledge should flow. Time is frequency. Okay? Now, the current concept of time that you see on the clock seems to have nothing to do with frequencies. It seems to have to do with getting to the job, picking up somebody, jobs, work. The clock seems to have been solely invented to let you know when you need to get to work and what time it is. It seems to not be connected at all to our personal vibratory frequency unless you look at it just so much more deeper. But the truth is, brothers and sisters, that time is actually a frequency. And what this means is that your high vibratory ancestors are in the future. As you continuously bring up your vibration, you actually connect more, you amplify, and this puts you in contact, if you may, with all that you knew not while you were in division. So high vibratory frequency brings you into a united field where you become aware of things that you weren't aware of before. And that's why many things are actually synonymous for high frequencies. Knowledge, intelligence, crystals, right? Like if you really measure this stuff on an oscilloscope, you know, we love to mate our metaphysics with our physics, with our engineering. You measure frequencies on the oscilloscope, you'll know what high frequencies are. Gases, these kind of high frequencies also reside in a certain space in our time. Literally. And it is the space in which they reside in that is governed by their frequency. And so too for us, it is the space that we reside in, mentally, physically, and spiritually, that determines where we reside. And even if we pick up our mental frequency, but our spiritual and our physical frequencies are still low, they serve to pull the rest down. There would need to be a complete unity in the field for you to be able to accelerate, especially to make it beyond many of the fields that are out there. And so what this kind of looks like is like this. Mind, body, soul, and not necessarily in that order. They oscillate. And that if you can't get these two to agree, the wheel won't turn. You can have this one going in this direction, this one going in this direction, but because this one will be going in this direction, it will slow things down. And in fact, you can place damage on this one by struggling against it. So some have allowed their physical frequency center to overthrow their spiritual frequency centers and mental frequency centers. And they've stripped and ripped these other two forces and have a hard time re-engaging them, have a hard time getting balanced. Okay? Now they love to show you balance like this. They always show you that two sides, right? And when we visualize balance in our minds, we sometimes think of those two sides, and we often don't think about what is balancing it in between, right? Like just like those scales, right? Right? Like those scales, there is this. It's not just this and this. Okay? So having that third point of balance is central, literally, to your ability to jettison wherever you want, to actually use your vehicle, okay? Your chariot, as it's called. However, you could see what's going on here on the planet. Let's take, for instance, with the youth. The rap music. Right? So lean, all right? That's the, sag. Okay? Like Ninher sag. Right? So the lean obviously is promethazine. It's an opiate. Okay? So think of it as, in Inception, you saw Leonardo DiCaprio going into China and linking up with some people who could put you into deeper stages of sleep. Okay? They had mastered potions and poisons, right? This is the reason why there's a connection with opium in China. Even when the United States got in, or the people got in from China to the United States, built the railroads, and they wanted them to leave, they hooked them on opium again, because that plant is evasive in their colony, in their species, in their genome, okay? So the opium will take you into other worlds, lower worlds, because it can slow down the frequencies and the wavelengths and actually take you into another space. Now, those spaces will be more hostile. Those spaces will have less light. They will have less balance, okay? But they are spaces nonetheless that exist. And many are in that space now. They're leaning into that space, and they live there, okay? And their dreams are in there. And in the event that one of your children or me or anybody else goes into that frequency, we now become a part of that world, okay? The music, this is why I mentioned lo-fi. Like, we deal with frequencies all the time. It's about the oscillation. It's about just this, right? And if this is going like this, you're getting to high frequency, right? If it's going like this, you're in low frequencies. And we're not saying good or bad here. We're talking about celestial mechanics. You can do what you want. Do what y'all wilt. But I will ask you, is that all you're doing? So these long oscillations or low vibratory frequencies are realms that are already inhabited. In fact, they're so dense, they're more solid than even our world. So this means that there's always an opportunity to go lower. There's always a scenario where you have that it's even easier to go lower. That to vibrate high, you really have to put some stuff in balance. You really have to make some intentions, because you're swimming through sludge or thick goo, thick water, when you enter into those worlds of the nether region. They are underwater. So there's another aspect of this. The food. Also, the racism. Right? These are the biggest plays. Because, see, the good and the bad, the night and the dark, the light and the darkness, okay, that's just electromagnetics. Those are just two poles that are used to create energy. So when energy still fuels the entire reality, like I say, all is energy, where energy is coming from may vary. Some people may choose to get their energy from different places. A lot of people like to get their energy from meat. So you can see how there's probably some other beings that like to get their energy from conflict, fighting. Because it's the same frequency, it's just on another wavelength, and you're just the character acting out the script when you're in those lower wavelengths, because they're the past. They're not what's happening right now, they're what already happened. Okay? Division already happened. You're living in it. So the food plays an important role because of the alkaline. And many people know this. They talk about it all the time. Alkaline, alkaline, alkaline. And they're always trying to get the alkalines high, which is great, especially to offset some of the lower alkalines. But it's just a simple principle that you have your acids and your alkalines, okay? And actually, this should be, well, I'm a big fan of everything is upside down and up is down and down is up, but I'll save y'all that whole flip by just giving it to you like you see it. just alkaline and acid, and this one goes up literally, and this one goes down literally, and we call that our pH what? Balance. Okay? All is known, all is revealed, but to the ignorant, they do not see it. So that pH balance, not high pH, super high pH is disconnection also. And you got these people that are eating all these carrots and eating all this stuff, and then you're like, namaste, I just want to be around that. You're going down too. No, but serious. It's like balance, not wired up and geeked up and on a whole nother thing and unable to reconnect, and not all the way down there and totally disconnected, but balance, right? So when the pH balance, the acid, which is pretty much everything, your soy sauce, your sauces, all your sauces, because they love to throw the vinegar in there. Vinegar we use in the laboratory. It's like vinegar is one of the strongest acidic agents. Grease, right? All of these things, think about it. And you know, grease, oil, these are all fuels. Okay? Everything you're consuming is a fuel. Sometimes we have to step back for a moment to connect these things. These fuels that you're eating are in different qualities, though. You can't throw chicken grease in a Lamborghini. You know, there's some biodiesel cars you can throw it into, but I'm sure that check computer light will come on in the Lamborghini if you try to throw that in check dealership. This ain't it. This won't power it. So all of these greases and things that you're eating, like when you soak that grease out of a potato chip, you ever take a potato chip and go and just spit out all the grease in the potato chip? You know how many times, do you know how many things have been fried in that same grease as far as how many potatoes? Do you know potatoes, when you spray pesticide on the ground, are one of the main vegetables that soak in pesticides? So when you take that pesticide and you fry it, the transition that actually happens, as they call it, the trans fat, the transition that actually happens is pretty intense. And then the more potatoes you fry in that same grease, because remember, the only criteria is that it's golden brown. And it will remain golden brown as long as it's never up to a certain heat. So they fry more and more and more potatoes, and then here you come. Can't eat just one, and then down you go. Down you go, further and further and further and further as you're taking the encouragement, because remember, as you get lower, everybody on that path, when you ask for advice, they're going to only have more low vibratory advice. Man, you need to try this hot sauce with that. There's some vinegar now. Okay, yo, try this Pepsi shot. This is, you see, so down you go. So see, people need to wake up and be aware, and they will. And they will. But today, this conversation is actually not about people. People is a classification. This is about advanced beings and what they need to do now, because if I'm coming in here to explain to you the tetragrammist, that means things have definitely got to the point where we are ready to come up out of this egg, that this thing is about to crack, because every single thing around this design explains the transition. So let's keep going. So now know also this racism. Okay, so we got these greases and oils. So just start thinking about that when you're eating things. Just say, well, what kind of fuel is in it? Where's the power? Because we can really run a biodiesel car off of what comes out of a KFC, people. This is not a metaphor. I'm telling you, and for those that don't know, biodiesel cars run off of chicken grease for real. And all of greases are fuels. And your body is taking that grease in as a kind of fuel, but it's a low-grade fuel for you. And I'm not just talking about chicken grease. I'm talking about like a lot of the oils, the mixed vegetable oils, all those different oils, okay? And these serve to push you more into the past, so much of where your sleep, this is how sleep happens. Keep seeing World Star throw up Chinese videos about them eating dogs and stuff, right? Wondering why is it so instrumental for this network, who is not owned by Q and is definitely owned by the Jewish mafias, the ones who run the media systems for sure. They would have seized that even if they had to do so in court. Want to push this message about racism. So again, so we can preface the call for today. I think that's how you spell that. Let me try to spell a little nicer, not like the doctor. Okay? Racial and ratio. Okay? Why? Why do these words connect? Because the ratios or the geometries control the division points. Okay? These division points and segments are controlled by the ratios. So what is it really? It's just division, right? Literally division, like math. However, that plays out in the drama of the human beings like, well, I'm number 4, and so 5 definitely, I came before 5. 5 doesn't even know what he's talking about. And then 2 walks in, it's like, what's going on? 2 is always dualistic. Y'all need to get away from me. And then 1 comes in, stop. You see, so that is the ratio game. That is really the conversation going on in the geometrics until the awareness comes of the height of the expanse of what is really going on. In ignorance, we are divided. And it's so ignorant because we're not really divided, but we've furthered this process. Okay? And when I say we've, I'm talking about our ancestors, the DNA. I'm talking about the whole process that has put us here now, which you will find out about here in a moment. So when we're encouraged to keep the racism going in the division, where are we going? Where would you be going? Would you be going, let's say, for instance, this direction, and this is very difficult because now you're on a 2-dimensional plane now, and you're trying to draw out something that is actually hyperdimensional. Watch out. You need to leave a heavy disclaimer. Let's say this is the future, and let's say this is the past. And I'm going to tell you right now why there's 2 different versions of the future and the past based on idealisms. Okay? So this second version, we probably won't even draw it different. Let's just draw it this way. All right? So here's why there's 2 different versions of the future and the past. Okay? So for some people, they think, well, in the future, things are going to get like more technological. And like pretty soon it'll be like Blade Runner. Yeah, I guess it's going to be like Blade Runner. And then, you know, we're going to be flying in the sky. There's going to be no sun in the sky. Somehow the sun is gone. And most of those movies, it's always dark. The sun's gone. Like even the movie The Matrix, the sun's gone. And all this technology is now taken over, right? And they're calling that the future because that's the future that they want you to believe. And we won't start the they, but the projection wants you to buy into, send energy into, buy into literally. Buy that future real estate. Start projecting that kind of future. Okay? So it wants you to buy into the future that is going to be, let's say, this technological future, but that is everybody wearing implants all in their face and, you know, all sorts of stuff going on. You know, it's like a hyper strip club where women have 3 breasts and 3 different booties. You know, like this is their pictures of the future, right, in Hollywood, okay? So that future is not your future. So that's why there's 2 different futures. Because in the balanced consciousness, their future actually equals unity. See, because in all those movies, now everybody's really trying to distinguish, and this is why they always send that same message. They're really trying to distinguish their uniqueness. Weird teeth, you know, cut open tongues, and all these different things to try to say that I got my own unique character here, holding on to their little unique characters, right? Their little scripts in a gigantic film. So what happens here is that for the advanced, the future is actually unity. And the past is actually division. Because those who are really going to the future will be connecting with their ancestors. They will be connecting with what they forgot about. They will be connecting with what they lost. Everything they lost that was the truth, they will find. As you go more into unity, nothing will be able to escape your grasp as you expand into a macro. Okay? Unless you're contracting, which are judgments. Agreements. That's why all these contracts They take place in a very occult way, and we've talked about that before. So there's a lot of contracting, the judgments and the agreements, and that splits and divides. This is what's mine, this is what's yours, she's mine. You know, all of that contracting that goes on is division, right? So you could tell that's not going to make it. With everybody saying this is mine and nobody wanting to help the people who don't have any, even though there's abundance of it and they're throwing it away, you know, that's not the future. So if you have somehow made your mind think that the future exists without white people or without black people or without Chinese people, man, you got a serious lesson to learn, Doc. Because in the future, there's no more skin suits. There's no more racials which create colors, okay? Racials create colors. When you bend the spheres and then you project the lights, what colors you're seeing is based on the geometrics. Okay? So you're into a light show if you think that there's such a big difference on the next level between all these beings, because on the next level, the beings are all of those beings in one. And your limitation is your character that you're existing here as now. And the more you buy into that script, the more you invest in that character that is old paradigm and not about the unity, the more you enjoy others that are continuously doing that, even though exactness has come to all of us. Meaning that it is clear and present in the supreme knowledge how we all coexist, right? But let's talk about that knowledge. Let's reveal the great key. The double cone. Now, on December the 21st of 2009, I destroyed my old self, obliterated, completely destroyed its frequency. Okay? And I'm going to explain to you how that came about really briefly and why I'm saying that's what happened. My life forever changed at that point, as for many people after today, their lives will be completely changed. They will not be the same. It will be more expansive from here. So on December the 21st, 2009, I was finishing up a project in the A in Atlanta. And as usual, more money was going to be pouring in. Like, I had my stuff together. There's a few people that know me back from that day, but there are some folks hanging around, like my brother Life, knows how I get to it. It's never been an issue for me to have prosperity. My issue has always been my consciousness and understanding what's going to happen when we die. And in focusing on that, I was able to achieve in the first part of my life everything that most people would want. I won't say with ease, because nothing's easy, but I was able to get that achievement happening, to realize, and happening enough to realizing that I was also still in a void and I wasn't going to get my question answered with just accumulating more resources, right? And so in this thought, I was in an experiment myself. I was actually conducting and creating something that I won't give too many details about, but it involved ultraviolet light. And in that process of me continuously checking whether this experiment was going properly, I seemed to have overexposed myself to UV light without knowing. So in completion of the project, which actually ran over about 3 weeks, I was working in an attached office that was attached to my condo, and I sat on the corner of the bed and I looked up at the corner of the wall. All corners of the walls look the same. They're called oobs. Light gets trapped here, according to the Sumerians and many other traditions. In the corner of the wall. When you turn on the light, all the darkness flees towards the corner. When you turn off the light, all of the essence comes from the corner. Okay? So I'm staring up at the corner, like, because I'm a little exhausted. I've been working all night. And I'm like, hey, man, this is finished. I'm about to go collect my check. It's going to be on. And all of a sudden, I went through 5 minutes of deja vu. 5 minutes. And if anybody has ever been in deja vu before, you know that even a taste, a millisecond of deja vu gets you like, yo, what is this? Yo, I've seen this before. What is it trying to tell me? Maybe I need to sit down and meditate. 5 minutes of the whole thing. Rotations of energy. Basically me being brought to the awareness that I was in a circle. And not only was I in a circle, but I had a pattern that was letting me go to the height of things and then crash. Go to the height and then crash, which was so damaging to my being. It had happened already 2 times. Okay? And this intercession from higher self, which is me, this intercession was taking place because I was on the cusp of crashing again and didn't even know it. And what it disclosed in that 5 minutes, in that rest of the 2 weeks after, was every single key to not only how this reality works, but multiple realities. It was so much information, it just produced the code to the matrix, and it gave me what I felt like was 60 million years worth of knowledge to decrypt. And I spent the last decade decrypting that knowledge, compartment by compartment by compartment. Because even trying to take it all on at once, which I've done at different times with different kind of substances, it still would not let me get my arms around it. I felt like I'm just not getting my arms around it completely on what it is, so I'm not sure. Today I'm sure. It was very elusive because of time and when it was time to bring this message. So this double cone, okay, because no, this is just one, right? This would basically signify light and darkness, okay? Life and death. And let's look at that for a second. So as you see here, you have a double cone. Now, when I researched the ineffable name, the Tetragrammaton, which I've probably done more research than most people in the world, probably except for the Kabbalists that are completely aware of it, just scrounging for little bits and pieces of what the ineffable word really consisted of. This is before the event. I kept coming into many things. It's great and terrible. It's the end. It should never be uttered. It's ineffable. It can't be pronounced. It's God himself. So there's so much around it. Even the movie Pi centers around the Tetragrammaton in Phi, in the mathematic equations. And how even people playing around with it have really gone crazy. They call it Jerusalem syndrome. And that has made so many people fear it. Because rightfully, if you somehow start tampering with it, because it doesn't come back void, you reap what you sow with it. And that is our lives. You know, I'm coming to actually explain to you that you are actually the Tetragrammaton. You're a double cone. So it doesn't matter if a person knew the word itself, the Yod He Vav He. If you knew that, it doesn't make a difference. If you're not Tetragrammaton within, meaning if you're not completely harmonized and balanced, it'll just wreck your world at worst. At best, nothing happens. And so there's a lot of people who got at worst. A lot of people tampering with it, trying to harness its powers internally. They just settled for its external replicas, which is also known as the Merkabas, right? The external versions of the Tetragrammaton. But as it truly is, it is the double cone that brings in and takes out life. The word was associated with a battle cry from Orion. Double pyramids, Murugan, then later on Solomon or Amsalon, and then later on David, and then corrupted on from there. After Davud, which again is the Rastafari, when the original Rastafari were carrying the symbol as the Nagus, who were coming out of ancient Lanka. Okay? So this symbol is the symbol, though, of what? You know, because we love the mythology. Like the mythology is wild. It's like a wild around this symbol. But somebody is actually governing this symbol more than anybody on earth. But they use a straight line. That's why I draw the curve. So you've seen this before. You get the difference? Only the brotherhood and the sisterhoods know the difference between a curve and a straight line these days, but it's a hell of a difference. Because when this thing starts unlocking, these are circles. When this thing starts unlocking, it's a bit different. They're straight lines. And to work on these kind of physical planes with those kind of angles, it's like you're using something too sharp. You're in a curved realm. It's like you're using the wrong tools. And that's why the world is the way that it is, and it's imbalanced, because many have only been able to grasp this through the logic, which is their universities, through the logic of the geometry, like Pythagoras taught them, like just through the logic alone of the tones and the frequencies to create their cell phones, to create their electronic devices, but not to bring us into the harmonics of the magical flute, to understand exactly how we tone properly to awaken the temple within ourselves. You know, like none of that. Just all the external logical side of its use, which is abrasive. And thus, it's reaped thorns and thistles for us. This knowledge has fallen into the hands of the darkness. But now, its truth comes to light. So, as we see here on this image, oh wow, I was drawing on the board and maybe that was a little too small, but I'll keep going. This is a direct explanation of what we're talking about. Now, you'll go find this anywhere. This is another thing. If there's anybody back there, how do you know? That means you're not learned. You're not learned. Not us. We're in the know. This is everywhere. And I'm going to break all this down. The next year, complete destruction to the falsehood. Done. Goose. Pack up. Dip. Get in the ship. Go do your thing somewhere else. It's not going to be possible here anymore. Because as this awareness increases, and it's already gone out, it's like it's the first horse to ride through the land. It is the strongest one. The great mane, okay, is going to give them a nightmare. Look at the lessons and look at the words, because they teach everything. This is heavily encrypted and dense. It couldn't be any other way. When you've assessed the power, you've become it. And now it has been revealed. This is the atom. We should write this one really small, because this is a corruption. Adam, who is supposed to be a man, an actual male human being. So let me show you something for all those who think they're learned about what Adam is. See, now, external Adam is Kahin. Okay? That's why I told you this is where they get the word Cain. I'm going to switch the screens in a minute. Cain, Kahin, king, queen, Kohin, or Cohen, okay? Priest king, right? So the externalized version of this power is called the Kahin. That's why all the king queen, rebus, actual androgyny. They're still androgynous hermaphrodites today, so this is not something that you can, well, maybe, no, Google, okay? There's hermaphrodites. Just as in the beginning, there were more hermaphrodites. Later, there's less and less and less of the self-production because of division. A hermaphrodite is symbolic to an external being that can self-create on its own, and that was known as the first king, okay? Because the real parent of humanity. Okay, it contained a womb and the phallus together, not separate. A sun moon. Okay? So in that tense, the external one, because everything has a counterbalance or a shadow. Okay, the external one is Kahin. It's the as below. It's the one that's acting out as the ruler on the physical planes, because on the higher planes, this is the real control point. This is the centerpiece, which is you. But on the low end, they will tell you it's not you. You're everything but the king and queen of England and all of this. You're everything. Those are the Illuminati. Those are only the 1%. You're not a part of them. That's what happens when it's juxtaposed. The full position is juxtaposed, as they say themselves. So the Kahin, listen to this, what it says. The Kahin, being YHWH, which is YHVH, do not get confused, who is YHWH itself incarnate, but in a state of insomnia. So they're telling you, or amnesia, they're telling you right here. Okay, this was taken out of one of those old books on Gutenberg that was about to be burned. That, Seven's been up late at night 5 years ago, Googling all sorts of wild keywords and coming across so many things and OCRing it and listening to it at the gym while I'm working out, getting this knowledge, working on bringing this to humanity in some kind of way, and also taking myself to another stage as proof, which must accompany each other. It's a hell of a path. Life has showed me so much in this last decade. But think about it. Are we in a state of amnesia? If I'm sitting here teaching you about yourself, there can be nothing greater than amnesia that can be used as a word. Think about it. How can someone teach you about yourself? But yet we are in a situation where we have to, because we forgot about ourselves. Start thinking about everybody else, though. We worry so much about everybody else. What's so-and-so doing? What did Kanye? Kanye's running now. Look, he's running. What is he running from? Now it's him and Pusha T again. Pusha T versus, who we going to throw in? You see what I mean? Like, oh, it's Kim. Kim's doing this. Everybody else, but not yourself, right? So watch the play. Even them, though, remember, all will come forth. All will come forth now. There is no more division and separation. It does not exist. It was an illusion. There is no more judgments. I remember somebody used to say a long time ago, well, maybe the Illuminati's and people, the reason why they don't, because we won't accept them. And I don't know about all that, but there will be nothing left but that center island. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. Quick sidebar for those who may be running out early. Realize that, hey, man, I need a little bit more time to be able to get this. I got to run off. Check out Martin Kinney. I left it in the description because the brother has put some stuff together, which I'll talk about in this conversation, but I want to make sure if anybody's running out right now and got to go and may not make it back to this conjunction point, the control piece, the calendar, the brother is on it. So check out Martin Kinney, save him on Facebook, show him some love. We're going to be running his video at the end of this. I kind of snipped up a couple parts just so it can collaborate with what I'm talking about here today, so you get it very clear. And then he has a direct documentary that you can also watch. So just in case you're running out and you don't get a chance to, unfold the tetragrammist for yourself, then at least don't miss the cosmic clock and calendar, because even though no man knows the day nor hour, not all of us are men now, are we? At the end of the day, when you start figuring out what you really are, you realize you're beyond title. So true. All men and people who classify themselves in any kind of conjunctions and small packages of themselves will never actually realize the complete truth. Thus, they will never master time because they will remain in division. That's what that means. So let's keep going. So in the state of amnesia, it worships an image of itself. Right? What does that really mean? What does that really mean to worship an image of yourself? Well, I think we see it all the time now, don't we? We have stars on TV. Basically, people give the stars on the TV more attention than they give their own mother and fathers, sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles, friends, loved ones, and everybody else. So that's one example right there, right? It's just onto the image of the whole thing, not yourself. Also, in most traditions, they got a male, generally. Some of them have a female, very few, but there are some that are running around as the chief patriarch of the tradition in a human body. And in that, people have, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. What are you doing? You're worshiping an image of yourself, the ultimate selfie stick. Okay? So it says that when you do that, it says you worship an image of yourself which you project, and thereby creating a distance between yourself and yourself. What a conundrum. This is like a part fullerene, like a dream within a dream, a onion within an onion, right? A layer after a layer after a layer, because you're continuously creating this distance from yourself. The more you create more division. So the more you cut somebody off, the further you are away from the truth. You see how the machination works? So this machination, if you may, is actually an ophonym. For those that just want to know what the name of it is, as far as like the real reference to what we're actually in, because there's still a lot of speculation going on, which will be cleared up. But again, I'm so glad that I have the opportunity to bring the knowledge, and I'm not like, okay, how are they going to take this? Because how much more of this, do they really have to connect? Because they're going to need those connections. This give you all the connections now. The ophonym. Okay, so one time, I'm on the diamonds, and that's my code. Everybody knows that code word. And this time, it's probably time number 45 or whatever, 46. And now I'm into this part of the experiment, because that's what I did. I experimented with these substances. I wasn't just trying to get high. Those are not even like the highs that are like the addictive ones. They're more like, okay, I hope I come back. And so you're challenging the real realm of how wild things can really get. Unexpected, the realm of the unexpected. Okay? And this time, I'm on realm of expected, time number 44, with the notepad and the binoculars, hanging out at the beach, right on the time where the sun and the moon are at equal stance, which happens quite a lot. And I go in. I hold. And I hold. And you know what happens. The HUD cuts on. Okay, because once the because the diamonds are just catalysts. That's why crystals, they're catalysts. They bridge the gap. So they allow you to turn on for a moment. And you generally turn back off after that, hopefully, right? And those people are like, ah! So I'm on, right? And so once I'm on, I'm like, ah! And then in my mind's like, I got this supreme mind. It's like, do what you came to do. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I grab the binoculars and I look up at the sky and look at the moon. And what I saw was chains, what appeared to be chains running through the moon, moving it like a great machine in itself. See, the thing about diamond is what you're seeing is really exists. It's not like the other substances, like I said, LSDs and all that. There's a gap between what you're seeing. Like Kalindi says, this thing only has a subset of the only last since it was synthesized. When you're dealing with psilocybins, it's like 1 billion years. When you're dealing with acacia's been sitting in the desert forever. So when you get onto that framework of pure distilled light, and the synthesis is at the moon, you see this. Uriel's machine, or AKA the ophonym, which is a chariot. So now you're starting to get an idea of when the terms like earth is God's footstool or things like that, like God is riding on top of the earth. That's a real thing. And what causes all of this is the positive and the negative, the electromagnetics, the racisms, the acids, the alkaline, and you're just a part of the machination. You're just a character acting out in an entirely different space. The real beings that control your movements are making their moves, and then you're following, versus creating your own paths, creating your own space, creating your own geometric spheres, if you may. Okay? So let's keep going. Look it up for yourself, ophonyms. And this is why when I saw that, because I had read so much of the works and have been exposed to so much information, I realized that many of the Kabbalists had created ophonims. And that's what a part of the great work really was to actually create your own electromagnetic sphere that I guess you either inhabit or you put inside of you and allow it to power you. Okay, so this was a known art of having a chariot because you jump in this thing and it's like, and you dip out electromagnetically. You're in one. Okay, for those that are still looking outside, like, where's the ophidem? I want to build one. You're in one. It activates on its own. For those who have tuned it up properly, you fly with it. So there's no needing to worry about, a lot of other things that people are going to be concerned about. But again, let's finish here. Since this form of worship reflects a lack of self-knowledge, it is rejected. You go nowhere. The whole division, external, lower, state of amnesia, worshiping self, don't get in. Don't let him up. Not ready. So, meaning that what happens on the higher planes, as you'll see, just explained so eloquently by myself and Brother Kenny, on the higher levels, here you come, big titan. And you're standing on this little bitty wafer because nothing up there weighs anything. Just like in real physics, at the top of this whole vault that we're in, the air that's up there, if you may, the particles are so small because every single thing else that's dense is below it. And that's how the reality is anyway. It's layered by gases. It's layered by elements, right? So at that top, right? That stuff is minuscule and small, so it can all remain connected and firing in between itself. And then here you come. I guess you're not even Jack. You're like who Jack was coming to visit up the beanstalk, right? Like you're the old giant. And you're trying to get on this little wafer with all of that weight, all of that baggage. That it's not going to happen. So this is what occurs truly in this reality. If you can't vibrate high, you cannot get into the center column and into the center of yourself. Because the wave oscillations, just like you see with the Kadusha staff, the wave oscillations of the two serpents so as these wave oscillations are happening, the oscillations are too wide for you to reach the center staff. It's like you're too dense. You can't get on the wafer, so thus you don't. You can't even get into the consciousness of the intellect, and that's why so many people, they can't even get into unity. You be telling them, yo, man, it's time to let it go, man. It's been 5,000 years, 1,000 years. I don't even know how long. The division's not working. Man, we're going to get this. We're going to take over. They're going to be our slaves. We're going to get everything back. And it's like, what are you talking about, man? That is not going to happen. That is all an old paradigm of a dream that you were sold and robbed. Robbed for buying it. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, many others know that through this process, that obviously I seem to come up with some secret about the language. What was directly translated from this high vibratory frequency to me was this code. And it just gave it to me like this first. Yeah, James, you like to play games. You're trying to get light, but you need to get light. You got too much weight, so you're going to wait. And that's how it started. And I said, well, wait a minute. Those words are all like the same words, but they all have a different meaning. I said, no, they are all connected. And this is what you will learn. And through that process, and it was like wild. My whole brain, the mental, logical side was reorganized because I had the key to the English language. And everybody knows that that's how this started a decade ago. I bought the Code of the Matrix, which gives a person a 101 about how to decipher English. I gave the book away for free. I was like, so long, suckers, I'm out. Like all I got to do is one more thing for the Most High, who is myself, and get this away, the greatest thing, the thing that is most valuable to me, which is the ultimate gesture of love, which is this work, because it changed me. And I gave it, and I sat on the bed. I even kind of had like my last mango, and then I was like, okay, like what's up? Because I already had seen the potential. I mean, if they would just zoom, zoom, and you were somewhere else, it's that and beyond was possible after what I had seen for the 3 months after this experience. So I'm like, okay, so what's up? And it's like, did you do your best? And this is self talking to self, but not aware of self. Just like he reflects on himself, but it's rejected. So you just stay there reflecting on self. Self's answering you like you're a separate person. Did you do your best? But somehow it seems to know everything about you. So we call it God. Right? Did you do your best? And I'm like, man, you got me. You got me because I see my best. Oh man, I've done some hell of a things when I knew there was no other option but to deliver. And I can't say I just did that with the book. True enough, I just pulled this off in a month. But I could do a lot more because I know a lot about technologies, and I know a lot about how things really work with people's mind, and a lot about businesses, and a lot about all that. And if I fired all that into this too, I'm sure to become something different. But surely you're not asking for that, are you? Oh no, we're not asking for that. Just create a simple website, make sure people get the book, and then you'll go. This is literally a conversation that went on for at least 4 years of me doing greater and greater things, breaking open more vaults, explaining greater and greater things, and of course accepting the ridicule, accepting the complete destruction that was happening in my household and my family from others who were just sending negative vibrations and energies as they were making their transitions. The total ousting and blackballing because I wouldn't be accepted by the black community completely because I liked white people. And they didn't accept me too much because I was black. And so I ended up staying in between, like where I like to be, right in the gap. Perfect. And thus, for 10 years, we broadcasted a message that changed people's lives, virtually undisturbed from the outer forces and influence of somebody trying to make you blow up before it's time. Think about that. You know, everybody's looking for the fame, but what happens when you get it and you're not even ready with your own message? I saw brothers attract 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 million views on a video and had nothing to land people into but a couple hats and t-shirts. Not a real mission, not a real cause, and yet they persist. So why it came with the knowledge about the language is because of the mystery of the number 26, which is what you see here. 26. You have 26 characters in your English language. As I've told you, 26 plus 26. Let me make sure I get it right so y'all don't blast my feed crazy. It's 52 weeks in a year. 26 gives us the number of so many different things. So let's just read about it. This is an excerpt from Letters and Numbers written by Gematria Code, which is Gematria Effect. It's a YouTube channel. Brother goes in. I can't say that I could just endure all those numbers that long. Man, that's a hell of a brother that he's just numbers all day, and he's exposed to a certain vibration, so we send love to him. But in the beginning of his book, it was like his magnum opus anyway, right there, because he just consolidated it for his readers. And for many of us that are already aware of this, you know, it was a great reflection once again in awareness. And I'll read it to you. And it says, "The wisdom and insight is coming, truth seeker," and this is his own words. "In the chapters ahead, we will examine the overlaps between Hebrew, Greek, and English. And next chapter, you will learn how to calculate each of the bolded words that follow, which is English. All add up to 26. As we covered, God, the word G-O-D, sums up to 26 in Gematria. Okay, so this is very important, right? Don't miss this. Like, don't think this is like just random knowledge. You need to understand that the Gematria, which is a part of the Kabbalah, which is the basically Hebrew, has a numerical equivalent. Every word in Hebrew is a number versus a separate set of numbers like in the English language. So because of that, and because we can match Hebrew up with English, or Yiddish up with English, we're actually able to see where the numerical equivalents are in the English language. And so the English word God is number 26 also. So you need to understand this connection because it means everything. Now remember, we know that the number 26 also is the tetragrammaton. We just showed you that. Okay? So now what we're talking about is the Cabal. And for those who don't know what Cabal really means, and I love to see the students come and teach because there's so much more building and inventing I could be doing as the mantles are passed. Old Ouroboros. The Cabal, or the cable, meaning the beginning must connect to the end. The A must connect to the Z. Only oral resuscitation will suffice. You must be told about it directly from a master who knows about it, right? So what are all they saying? Like, okay, you're shrouded in a mystery. Like, they've done so well in shrouding it in mystery. Can you do so well at simplifying it? A cabal or a cable is what this word means. It means the beginning connects to the end. But what did we just see? Let me turn this on real quick. Okay, so you see that on the screen? The cabal, the cable, right? And the cable has a beginning and an end. That's why I say it's Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. This is the Kabbalah. Okay, it connects. It's A to Z. Okay, it's 26. It's geometry. It seems to connect with language, right? You're building a picture here? If you're not, I'll keep going. So this image, like I said, again, is showing you this is what all this means, because it's showing you the future light cone and the past light cone, the beginning and the end, and extend a little further than that. You know, you also are connected to this directly. It shows you that you are the language. This is why when they draw the tetragrammaton, and even Allah for that matter, they always show you it as a human body. But some people think that may be just like, you know, maybe they were doodling a little bit and wanted to make a body out of it. No, it is the human body. Okay? No, and then the thing is that now when you understand how complex humans are and how wild this has really got, now you could see where all of the lore comes from. Oh, it's terrible. Oh my goodness, because you're only describing human beings then, but it makes more sense when you do that, and it doesn't create an external force that becomes our terrorizer and our judge, what keeps us divided. You see, when it becomes external, it becomes our judge to us, and that's what people feel like God is. It's like, God's judging me, so now you're judging yourself. See what they said in that beginning script? It's reflecting on himself and reflecting on himself, so he's being rejected. So judgment day has already happened, and you're after judgment day, stuck behind time walls, in prisms, playing color codes and color games, running scripts, right? Small codes, never realizing about the CPU. Your memories and how they play into all of this, your energy, right? So all that is where the darkness is, but you're being educated inside of the egg so that you can rule from your own egg, as we concluded semester 2 of university. Okay? Remember, it's like this only confirms more and more because they swoop right in on me. Like at the last episode, I had a whole nother message. I was just like, whew, I'm so glad because I had to do all of that, big pictures, and you know, there's a lot of aesthetics here if you didn't notice. So I've been doing all that. I'm like, okay, we're done. Whew, we're going to celebrate. This is the last one. And then they're like, actually, this is going to take another direction because it's now time to reveal the full atomic structure and what it looks like. Google these pictures. What does an atom look like under an electron microscope, which is one of the only tools to see it? It looks like a Star of David. Yeah, but we know that's not the Star of David, that's David. And then it goes on and on and on. That's a double cone. So now you start realizing, oh, that's Adam, that's the beginning, that's the end. So now you can start realizing what happens when you split atoms. Okay? So I'm giving you all the knowledge piece by piece. But remember right here, it also says that YHVH is coded 18 times in the Star of David, which is not the Star of David. Okay? It's not the Star of David. It is, oh, excuse me, hold on real quick. There we go. As it says over here in the top corner, 6 lines and 6 V-shaped figures, YHVH, encoded 18 times in the Star of David. So this means that this is the actual pattern within the human body and how many times that pattern, atomic pattern, replicates before it starts, going into its lower versions infinitely and going into its higher versions infinitely. So this knowledge will bring an awareness of even how to create generators that never fail. You see what I mean? Like, any alchemist was only trying to build something perfect because, like God, they will become perfect. And what they mean by that is that because of the number 26 being God, that you will become perfect if you learn the proper weights and measures. But the learning ground was here in the gap, in the extremes, where there's extreme negative and extreme positive, so you have all components to play with. Have you ever seen when you get in to work on something and you don't have the right tools? Here, they give you all the tools, all the personalities, all the codes, chairs, geometry, square, shape, all the primitives. So you were all given it all, so you're really given a gift. So if you squander that gift, you can imagine what's going to happen when the CPU comes and processes all of the memories, because that's what we're about to deal with next year. So let's keep going. If it's heavy, I'll make it lighter. So obviously, what I had done in the room that day, and we'll get back to this in a moment, was an evocation to self. I called myself to come and intervene for self because self was just being stupid. And translinear and multidimensional and quantum self moved in with the kind of equipment that was necessary to wake up this kind of hard head, rock head. You mean like I knew everything already. So at that point about the physical world, it was very difficult to come at me with some kind of new idea or something that I didn't know about. And also I had a spiritual past, so I had a lot of information about spiritual. So spiritually and mentally, I was very equipped. Physically even strong, but just nowhere near in the proper shape. Literally. Need to shape it up a little bit. So once I went into the high vibration and the evocation of self. Now how it came to me was, as I was sitting on the bed and the deja vu started happening, once it stopped, it seemed logical because of what I had just experienced. I was like, I said to myself years ago, when I was sitting in prison for that year and a half, learning all that knowledge, reading all those encyclopedias, and getting myself together, using that time as a college period, like what time you would spend in college, I said to myself then, after I had found the word, I said, man, now I'm just going to put it away. See, when I was studying there, I kept reading in the Apocryphas or, in Sibylline oracles or somewhere in each works, they're always like, and he was given the name. And then they'll say another one, and the name was terrible, and then the name was lost, and none had the name. And I'm like, damn, this is like a suspense thriller. Like, what's the name? And I'm just looking all over the place and couldn't find the name until I kept going back further and further and further and further and further and further. And then one day I got to a book, and it had the name. And by then I had read so much crazy stuff about the name, and the last thing I was going to do was call the name. I just put the name somewhere where I always would have it, and I marked it down as an achievement. You found the great ineffable word, but because it's ineffable, then you probably shouldn't say it because of all this stuff that is a huge list, laundry list of things that's going to happen to you. I was like, okay, I'm definitely cool on that. And I even went back to sleep. Like years later, like a few years later, 1 year later, I'd gone back into the world, as they say. But then this point woke me up. And when that happened, it was so crazy, I felt like I needed to defend myself. Basically, like this is too much for me. I need to call the word. And it seemed like a logical thing for me. That's how it all happened. It wasn't that I knew anything about what it was going to do, had any idea of mantras, vibrations, tones, frequencies. I didn't have any idea of that kind of stuff. I just knew innately, I'm going to call the word, because this is like, I need to talk to God, because whatever is going on right now, God's going to know. And if this is God, and if God is terrible and he's a destructor and all this kind of stuff, then so be it. That's what I need right now, because I am not, after getting this revelations, going to be going into the lower experience. God's going to know about this. So I uttered the word 3 times. That's why I was saying, if you're not it, nothing happens, because I'm sure many people, there's people in Jerusalem, they have to say this word quite a few times during the day. Sometimes, most of the time they're told never to say it, but people say it. Nothing happens generally. So it's not just anyone, it's when you're ready. And it's not just the word, it's you. You are the word. See, how they had to play me, that's why how I had to play myself. Okay, let's watch this. See, if you're told every single thing about what you're going to do, let's say 10 years ago I was told every single thing about what I was going to do, the whole thing, would I really do it? All of this work and oh my goodness, no way. So how much do you think your higher self, your parents, your ancestors are really keeping from you until you show yourself ready to actually be approved for that? You see, quite a bit probably, right? So that's what happened to me. And in that experience, I got to a point of realizing that, and let me just collect myself here. So going through this experience, I got to a stage where, so that's what I meant to say. I just want to make sure I skipped nothing here. So when I said the word 3 times, right? And I had known this because, see, now, let's just be very clear here. Now, in Christianity, which is, like the last of the traditions, the one that had the least amount of minerals in it, right? It's just almost water, nowhere near the rocks that we used to eat, right? Nowhere near mufkuts. It's like the weakest of the weak, right? But in this tradition, they talk about these. Okay, so this is what I want to say. I'm just trying to collect my thoughts here. Okay, so they don't talk about really directly in the Bible anything about evocations. Okay, this is what I'm trying to get to here. But in the Hindu traditions, evocations happen all the time. They're called mantra. Okay, so there's virtually no awareness of what mantra is in Christianity. Okay, however, mantra exists in Christianity, and the general mantra that most people use in Christianity is hallelujah. Okay? Hallelujah. That is a mantra, right? And it's a mantra because if you go to the holiness or the Pentecost or basically the all-out crunk denomination, they can get the spirit moving with this word. And also they have a process called tearing for the Holy Ghost, that if you say this word over and 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 over again, maybe for 3 hours, something happens. And it really does happen. As a little kid, I was always trying to think, are they faking? Or is this real? And it was always a mixture of both. It was always a mixture of both. Some folks you could clearly tell that they wasn't faking. Sister Betty was not faking when her shirt come up. She was just too holy for that. And then others you could tell, okay, that's Chandala. Chandala, is that you? Because that's what everybody is saying, Chandala. But Obobo Itobo, now he's on it. So this is what I was as a little kid, okay? So because of that, I already knew the formula, if you may, from how I could process it, that if you say words over and over again, that something happens. So this is kind of where the suggestion came from. It was like, oh, Eureka! Maybe that ineffable tetragramma thing you found, you just say it over and over again like the hallelujah thing, and the same thing will happen, because I went through the process of tearing for the Holy Ghost, and I did receive Shekinah, and it still talks at 3 a.m. about all types of wisdom. Like it's just a wisdom thing. It's like Siri, but from like 4,000 years ago. And anything you are focusing on that has to do with balance and spirituality, nature, etc., it just comes in and it will tell you about all of that. So I inherited that. So I was thinking that this was going to be like a similar bolt-on, okay? No. It would almost be like, maybe hallelujah is like the female one, like what Solomon describes her as, like a beautiful bride, gentle dove descending, probably that kind of character. The Tetragrammaton is more like the burning bush. It's more like what happens in the holiest of holies. Now, this is us. But it's like a flaming fire. So, but of course, I wasn't like prepared for that at all, because this is Kundalini. Okay, remember all these symbols, they're all the same. They're Shriyantric fields without the straight lines. This is Kundalini ready to have its way with me, and I'm just like a deer in the headlights. Hey! So it went. Once I said it 3 times, I felt my body vibrating, because I knew from the tearing process years ago that if you did it on your knees, there's water in your knees, and it seemed to cause a vibration easier. So I was like, okay, let me try that. I said the word 3 times, and the stuff started vibrating. I was like, shit, this works. Let me clean everything up, because I already knew, since I was a kid, nothing filth, get everything clean, take your shoes off. So I was like, okay, we're going to meet God right now. I don't know what this thing does, but it's working. And I also had a friend there in the house with me. Now, he was in the house downstairs, and I had already had the 5 minutes and then the process of coming to the realization I need to call this name within the span of 3 or 4 hours, and he knew nothing about that. So he thought he was coming upstairs to just his homeboy, and who he came up to was Yah after that, just a flaming fire, okay? So he comes in, he's like, yo, what's up? So I give him the rundown. Yo, this said this, this said this, this said this, and this, and this, and this. The same conversation that anybody would have had with me when I started on year 1. And, my wife used to say always, hey, I'm so glad we changed a lot because, man, I would go at you, and it didn't matter what you believed or what you thought or any of that. You just were going to accept this truth because it had hit me that hard, right? So I hit him. He was the first one to get it. Pure lion breath all over him. And so because he was like a really close friend, he was like, cool, man, whatever. I've been through kind of something like that before. So he was along for the ride. So after I said, so you're going to leave? And he's like, no, I'm going to sit here. And I'm like, shit, he's going to sit. All right. He ain't going to stop me then. I'm not going to be ashamed. And so I started calling it. And maybe once I got to maybe the 7th word or 7th time, that's when I started realizing as the energy was coming up that I couldn't stop it. Because I started feeling a reverberation in the body. And this is Kundalini awakening. And then it felt like water was rising. I'm like, what the fuck? And like water was really rising up my body. And I'm like, man, what's going on? And then he's like, and then everything is shaking that is metal. And things that are not metal, and I've mentioned this several times, or no resonance, are not moving. And this is creating like a warping effect. Like it literally looks like the reality is kind of warping a little in the room. So Buddy is like, yo, what's going on? And he grabs me, and that was right around the time that I was leaving. Because not only was I up to my neck in water all of a sudden, what felt like water, the vibration was so high, I was like almost kind of paralyzed by the vibration, and then I felt like it, because I was basically thinking in my mind, man, when this gets to my nose, I'm going to drown. That's all I kept thinking. It's like, I'm going to drown because this water which is no water, but I feel water. And then all of a sudden, I lost consciousness. Mm-hmm. And just as fast as I lost consciousness, I gained consciousness again. So it was like a boom, boom. And the most important point to remember about this that will help us a little bit later in this conversation is that when I went up, it seems like I was boom, gone, and flying up. But I didn't see that visually. I just felt the inertia. And then I hit something. Boom! And with the same amount of strength that I was coming up, when I hit that, it was like I hit like a trampoline. It pushed me back down. But I had gone up so high, I entered into some other spaces. So when I came down, boom, I could feel it in my hands. That's the only thing that was like the indicator that I had definitely gone somewhere, was like all of the knowledge or the essence of these places was actually in my hands. And I was going like this, like, even though I wasn't seeing anything. Now, once I'm coming to, like basically trying to figure out, this is a hell of a ride. I did not expect this. I expected gentle, peaceful dove. What I got was, I don't know, Leo Fentalis. I don't know what I got. It was wild. So anyway, I realized that, okay, what about Demetrius? And I looked, and he was strange. And this may give us a little hint of what may happen here in a year or may not, depending upon how well we can actualize our Sovereignty 2020 over the entire world to get people expanding into realizing shift happens. He clearly wasn't himself. And the behavior I recognized from the movement was sub behavior. Okay, now when I say that I recognize, it was also because I had a wild amount of awareness. Every single thing that I looked at, I knew the answer to. So when I looked at him and I saw him in that condition, it's almost faster than you can even ask your question. What's going on wrong with him? You already have an answer. His spirit is gone out of his body. And what was inhabiting him is like what bodies really are when there's no spirit. So I guess it's just the other half. Right? So I was dealing with the other half, and he was kind of moving around. And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm going to kill this thing. And that's literally what I saw. I grabbed this barbell, and this was what was going on. I'm telling you, this stuff is very powerful and potent. This is why they're warning people, right? So I grabbed this barbell because I felt like I was in the room with Satan. All of a sudden. And this is what they call these kind of roles play out. This could be megalomania. This could be catharsism. This could be dissociative disorder, because you've now taken yourself completely out of the norm and you're trying to operate a heavy vehicle. So I had the thing, and he was there, and I had the thing like this. Now this is about, because I had to be curling. I was bigger then. I had to be curling maybe 80 pounds. So I got this thing like this, like a javelin, and I saw it. It was like a flicker. And what I saw was a gold chain that one of my friends used to wear, and it was the Archangel Michael standing over the devil with the sword, right? And it was like a freeze frame, because it was, and then what was said right then and communicated by the higher self is, see, you're going to do it again. You keep doing the same thing over and over again. Now, I had no idea what that meant. And as I kept struggling against, do I eliminate this creature or am I being told something? It started to unfold what that meant. And it was about that this lock that we're in, like what they say, Michael's sword intercepts the buckler of Satan, all that, right? This was that same traumatic thing going on over lifetimes, either being a Hashashin, taking some advice from Ben Saba and going to murk a couple crusaders, or whether I'm there, at wherever you're at, but that same good versus evil, and how that's not a mysterious way. And how the only way you will extend beyond all of this, now that you've come into this level of awareness, is if you move in mysterious ways. And right then, of course, I was like, okay, for sure, because now that I'm coming to it, I think I'd probably go to jail for this too. Start thinking now you're coming down into it now. It's like, yeah, this will be good. And right around that time, he came back. And he was like, yo, it's me, stop. And no, he didn't know. I had already got the message. But when he came back, he still wasn't exactly himself. And I'm explaining all this for a reason. Like, this probably would be one of the only times somebody accounts these kind of experiences deep by detail. But he was trying to basically get back into himself, but kind of into himself. And right then, this other part that he was, it kept trying to find the phone. It was like it was blind, but it was looking for the cell phone. The whole time, I started realizing that the whole reason why it kept moving around the room was it was looking for the cell phone, and he had found it, and he was grabbing the cell phone, and once he had got it right there, and then something came in my head, and it said, do not let him use the cell phone. And it explained in detail right around, like in real time, as me grabbing the cell phone from him as he's making the call, and me cracking the phone in half with the superhuman strength. Kundalini is fully active. And the explanation came through. It says he's trying to call you, so you can hear your own voice from your answering machine. And if that happens, this process, it won't take, and it will be dangerous. So it communicated all that at one time, maybe for somebody else in the future or the past that may experience this. Listening to your own voice before the transition, your previous voice. Because see, your previous voice contains the exact frequency of where you were then. And if you've changed, and now you're going through that process of like settling into the change, your old voice will pull you back. The same way people that still think they're seeing the same old person will pull you back. Before the change completely takes, it's like you're just now getting into your new diet and everything, and then here comes those same old people, and now they're pulling you back. When the bread starts calling again, when the cheese, hey, right? When it starts calling, that wheat starts calling, when that crust, that crunch, that skin, when it starts calling, then they're right there harmonizing with that call. And your process hasn't took yet. So you could see why higher self ordered me out of Atlanta. After I did one major thing, and I only want this all to be on the same recording, just in case some novices, some neophytes are coming in 10 light years in the future and listening and want to observe. The final process that this put me through was, first of all, like, you need to walk. Like, everything was walking for me at that point. And I had an exotic rental car business. So imagine what it was like for people in the A to see me walking. I still have my Ferragamos, though, as I always say. They just made good walking shoes. But they would be rolling up on me like, yo, what's up? Where's the cars? And I'd be like, there's no more of that, you know, the language, and this, and this, and this. I go crazy on them. And then what would happen, though, is because we had a list. Like, it literally sat me down and it wrote a list. And this list was in chronological order to the people that I had met in Atlanta from the first time I stepped into that space that somehow were influencing why I was still there and couldn't even leave. Right now, if you told me to even tell you what was going on last Monday based on yesterday based on what my life in the A was like once that thing was in rare form, I would not be able to tell you. So to be able to write down every single person that I wrote that I met in order was divine for sure. And on top of that, I was bumping into these people randomly by just walking. So I'm walking. And I always tell the story about one in particular. So I just finished up with one. I'm actually riding down the street. One of the guys next on the list, he's right there. Boom, yo, Seven, what's up? He just is getting out of jail. And I'm like, he's like, yo, man, I'm looking for you, man. I got this. Now I got this new thing. And then I'm like, but my consciousness is like, you see what they know you for? You see what they know you as? You have to change that. So I would go in on them, and this, and the words, and none of that stuff, and all this. And by the time they were done, for sure, they'd be like, yo, where I drop you off at, cuh? You know, I'm done. And I'd be like, yo, drop me off at the cemetery, homie. For real. Like, I left, the last time one of my best friends saw me, I told him to drop me off at a cemetery. He was so anti what I was talking about. I said, man, drop me off at the Jewish side of the cemetery, man. It's a little bit more peaceful over there than what you got going on. And it was. So the reality is, though, is that there was a literal changing of the solid eidolonic projection that I had created in pinnacle people's lives. Even to a point where I was coming out of the store, I had just got some water, and I'm looking down at my list, and I see it's Ahmed next, and then I go and open the door, boom, I run right into somebody. I'm like, I'm sorry, and I look, and it's Ahmed. And I'm like, but I had already seen so much by then, none of this was a surprise. So I just go right into it. He, say, hey, my father's in town, went to meet his father. His father met me, and then he was like, everything for me was juxtaposed then. I had turned the world back right side up. So he stuck out his right hand to handshake me, and I stuck out my left hand. And I said, I don't use that hand. So basically anything anybody was doing on the normal, you wasn't going to get it from me. And that was how, like I said, I destroyed my old life. Because after I spun out of that ring, the last person I saw was my mother. I sent her on her way back to San Diego or California, packed up everything. It was even crazy then. We had like a bag of pictures that had me and Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh, who the hell is this? Like, I'm looking through the pictures and I'm like, man, this is crazy. I'm like, and the last picture I got, I only had like 5 pictures anyway. But then the other family members, like, they in there with Winnie the Pooh. And then the mind was like, the consciousness was like, this is what you need to go at. You need to get rid of this. And I'm thinking like, come on, man, we can't get rid of the family pictures. These are the last of the last. So I wasn't going to do it. Nah. My brother came home. He had just come home from school. He saw that we were all cleaning out the storage, and he thought that that was, all that stuff in that area was garbage. Somebody had set the pictures on top of something. He threw it all down the incinerator, so it was gone. They still looking at me crazy about them family pictures. But anyway, so the reality is that this was the part of the ascent, because the process was an evocation of self. I called higher self to come in and intervene on my behalf because I was in a loop. The vibrational shift. Clearly there was a vibrational shift, then a fallout. I fell out with everybody. We were always on a different frequency after that. I had to get out of there. It only took me a month to shut down every single thing I had. And I thought that it would take a lot longer to close down my empire. A month. Anything that was harmful for people, I threw it away. Everything else I sold at 25% of the value or gave away. Just to keep, Oh, y'all went, oh, no, you can't leave. Oh, no, y'all can have that. Okay, you can go. Oh, you still, well, you can have the whole thing. Okay, you can go. Shit, what's wrong with him? He giving us the, yeah, I'll sign it. You going to sign it? Yeah, I'll sign it. Here, you can have it. So I bought my own freedom. Instead of waiting for the cycle for me to get broke again so I can be the higher self. What are you going to do to me? I promise. Instead of going through that whole cycle, I decided to reverse the trend. Instead of losing everything, I gave it all away. And that was the beginning. That was the gesture. I turned the torsion field, instead of going like this, out, 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 out. Some people are confused sometimes about Widdershins and Diesel, like meaning the frequencies and how the vibration of the body is to spin. And I know it can be confusing, but just think of it like this. When it's going like this, it's going out, 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 out. Everything that you have is going out. Everything you think about is out. All the people around you you're worshiping and all the gods are external and everything is out. But the reversal of the field goes like this. Now everything is in. It's all got to come to me now. I'm not going to chase it anymore. And this is what I did to the torsion field. Simple. By reversing everything that I was doing before. It's a formula, and it always works. So I come gliding out of there. And that brought me in front of you today. I was in a country that I couldn't speak any of the language, and my brain would not take the code. Even to this day, I do not know Spanish. And my brain rejects the code. It does not want any more codes. So this meant that I couldn't communicate. I couldn't go out, party, find women, any of that kind of stuff. Not that I would want to after the experience. I just was sitting in a small room, like looking around, and my best friend was an iguana. That was from Magic City, 112, Ferraris, all of the stuff going on, the circuit, we used to call it, from Vegas all the way down to Miami with all of the different stuff. You know what I'm talking about. It's like the festival this, and then the Super Bowl this, and then Puffy is here, and then all this. And then because I got the cars, this is all fueling all in the fuel. You see what I mean? So, but destruction or salvation. Because in that process, I got a chance to see everything. I saw Prince, Patti LaBelle, all these different people to further realize that we were doomed if what I thought, which was that these people had some kind of grip on the reality a little bit more than I did, was true. So through that process, I realized, man, these people don't know any more than I do about, in fact, I know more than they do about spirituality. Oh no, this is not a solution. So I kind of meaning now, just getting to the top doesn't unlock knowledge for you. In fact, it takes you away from it. Contrary to what most people think. They trying to sign up for the Illuminati now. What a pity. But here we are. So notice the process, the shift and the fallout. So I fall out. Like I just basically left the island and I was on my little boat in the middle of the ocean. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't have any friends. I didn't know who I was going to, any of that. And nor did I need any of that. All I needed was myself in the process that I was going through with myself. One of the first people I met was a doctor about the body named Theo, who's no longer with us. And he taught me everything about the body. I talked to him one time through a friend's recommendation who I had also wiped out in my conversation. I was like, oh, blah, 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 some lady I met here in Costa Rica. And I just gave it to her. And she was nowhere near ready for that knowledge, but she knew somebody that was. She was like, I'm going to put you to one of my friends, Theo. He gets into all of that. That's what she said. And on Christmas Day, 3 years later, a year later, Christmas Day, around that same time, 21st, 25th, 26th, same thing, he calls me. Hey, what's up? I heard, we need to talk. And I said, yeah, are we going to go through protocols or are we just going to go right into this? He said, come by. And so I hit him with it when I went over there. Like anybody could get it. You guys know me, like in the beginning, still now, anybody can get it. So I was on my motorcycle. It was Christmas. I was riding through the city like it was vanilla sky. There was nobody in the city. And I went over there to his house and I started giving it to him. He said, man, this is brilliant, but you're filthy. What? What are you talking about? He said, man, I'm looking at your eyes. And he was like, because he said, because I'm an iridologist also. And I don't know what the iridologist, you're irritating me right now. It's like, yeah, I just gave you the jewel. You're telling me I'm dumb or filthy. And he's like, yeah, but he said, you're a vegetarian, right? And I said, yeah. But he said, but you're a junk food vegetarian. You eat croissants, huh? And I was like, yeah, He's like, you eat French fries, huh? He's like, yeah, you're a junk food vegetarian, so you're not clean. So all of what you're saying is amazing, but I'm going to show you what you're really about once we clean all of that out. And then talk to me. And we went on this quest. It was like yin and yang with me and him as far as we made it perfectly with what he needed. He was like, this guy was wild. So he had known every single thing about the body, but he was already like 70. He was ready to go. He fixed OSHA when OSHA was sick. He fixed Manly P. Hall when Manly P. Hall was bloated and had all of died that day. They was stale. They called in to try to get him back. He was a holistic doctor 20 years ago in Mount Shasta. Just drilling into me all the time about the bullshit. Let me dial it in. Just all the bullshit that goes on in these communities. But anyway, in that process of what he taught me, which I taught everybody else through this process about the importance of how to keep your body clean, that's when I started making the levels of acceleration that matched and paired with the knowledge that I had just received from the awakening of Kundalini. So it wasn't just any one thing. It's a formula. It's a process. The real invisible university, or invisible college, as they sometimes call it. So now the rebuilding had to take place. Just like the Shiva character is great at destruction, but only because it's great also at regeneration. Okay? So I had to rebuild everything. I rebuild a whole new life. And that's what I did. And I started off with a gesture of kindness and love by giving away what was most valuable to me. And you know that story. And it kept going. I just want you to see the process. Now we're at the Advent. It's been a decade. I've spent to the tune of about 14 hours a day for 90% of that time working with people, working with other celestial beings, working with this platform, these technologies, all trying to unify all those forces so they come to see the awareness and the power that we truly have together. And I also come personally into the fulfillment of the creation of this projection. So that's the rebuilding process, because I didn't go try to get rent-a-cars again and Ferraris and go to Mannheim and get auctions and pay $100,000 and run it back through the auction after making $200,000 or $300,000 for the same price I buy. I didn't go back into all of that. I went into something different, a strange world with strange people. And here we are, together, loving each other. Tribe. Real tribe love. Now, as I said, we're in the Advent. This is now, like what they say with the Mahdi, the 12er. When they come and they move through, it's like a force and an energy moving through of urgency. It's the last hour. An hour is one anu. An anu, okay, so 1 hour for us on this planet, 1 year for us on this planet is 1 hour for the beings that are on the next cog, right, which are called the Igigi in the Sumerian text, those who man the ship, okay? So in that text, this is the final hour. And we'll talk about this in a little bit, and I actually will probably let Martin elaborate on that in his video. But we've been talking about 2020 for a minute. And it was just because I got the transmission, same beings, Same higher self. 2020 is the date. We never gave you a date. Now you have a date. This is it. All the wires, all the chips. Run. Sovereignty 2020. Make yourself sovereign and as many people as possible on the physical plane as possible. You accomplished that already as above. You have to do it there first. If you're leaking, if you got God you worship, you're leaking. You can't become a sovereign. It won't happen. But once you patch those leaks up, now you got to fuel yourself. You got to fill back up that thing. And it goes like a thermometer, the Kundalini. If you keep getting aired out all the time in anger, in acids, you just keep letting it, you let out there. You almost get there by continuously pushing out energy that is not suiting you. It's not returning to you. It's not cycling. Anger, even when you get it back, how does it hit you back? You get angry at somebody, you get mad at them. Do they come back at you like, I love you, right away? Hell no. They come back at you with the same aggression. And now you're getting hit with that. Sometimes they come back more and you really get hit. You see what I mean? So is that ever the route? So people have been degraded this way. So this Advent now, this 1 year, this is the biggest campaign of a lifetime, believe it or not. Meaning 1 year to get a person into the condition of being able to make the ascent into 3,000 years in the future. Now, all this, again, will sound foreign until you hear the video here that I'm going to play. But it's just awareness, again, that time is frequency, and where we need to be is about 3,000 years ahead. But fear not. If you think that is an ultra-technological world where you need to be able to understand every encyclopedia or at least have Neuralink on to tell you, you're wrong. Not only are you already capable of with the equipment of how to do this, it also stems around the exact awareness that the future is only unity. That's why I call it the unity code. It's not as complex. It's actually eliminating the things that made you complex, eliminating the things that divided you. So here we go. Wow. All right. Man, I only got through one paragraph of my notes. No way. Let me see what time it is. All right, we're gonna take a moment and we're gonna come forward. This is gonna be a maxi. Well, not today's per se, but yeah, this, I guess so. It's got to be delivered. So we're gonna take a quick moment and we're gonna come back. I may set the Guinness Book of World Record today because it all has to be a part of the same opus. Like this all must be delivered today. As it goes forth. So we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to drink some water, refresh myself, and I'm going to come back into this again and keep this going because this is still more. Like this is the preliminary. It's a lot of joy though. Like I feel like very joyous that we were able to actually pull apart so much of things so it's out on the table, right? So now we can start connecting these pieces, especially because you know a lot about occultism, right? You know a lot about symbolism and all of this stuff. So as we start connecting these dots, it's going to be like, oh my goodness, how did I see that? How did I not see that? And then you'll start realizing the reason why you didn't see it because it wasn't time. It has nothing, it was a frequency that you didn't see it. It wasn't like something you did, oh man, because it was all had to be timed properly. Like I said, why would you want to know the highest levels of everything in your entire existence all at one time right now? And see how you would cope with that, right? So that's what's up. Let's take it forward here in just a moment. Let's see, what do we got on hold music? We got virtually nothing. So I'm just going to put that starting music on. Let's let it breathe for about 10 minutes, and then we're going in again. All right, so now we need to revisit something that is quite interesting for me, especially since, today is just a disclosure day. And that's amazing. So I love to have these moments because they're like candid conversations, especially because, let's say they have these expectations of you sometimes. Like, if you're leading people know who you are, then there's like this way with just this group of people, especially in the conscious community, where everybody's supposed to be nice to each other. And even when somebody's doing something super off, nobody's supposed to say anything. And everybody knows that I don't really play by those same rules. I just kind of remove myself from the space and stay in my lane. But generally, if my lane starts brushing against other lanes, I'll say something. And one of those lanes has been dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. You all know it, Flat Earth and me and the Flat Earth community. and how we've had this love-hate relationship over a certain period of time for a variety of reasons. Now, everybody in that community should be aware and does know that when many of the papers that were leaked from intelligence agencies that have been made available or even declassified to be available legally, there has been a lot of implications of the psi operations that have gone on to confuse things more and divide things more, even within the conscious community. Okay, so the conscious community is also being exposed to a real Operation COINTELPRO kind of situation where different personalities, based on their own uniqueness, sometimes urge their followers to not agree with or even be found around or on the site of other people who don't believe the same thing completely. And this has happened in so many different sessions in the conscious community, but it also goes on in the religious structure. So it's the same thing, divide and conquer. That's why I said, if you read all of the crazy spiritual books that talking about the dark magics and all of this stuff, the only thing it keeps driving home is that division is the greatest tool for bringing about destruction and chaos. And if one wants to be in that, they will separate mothers from fathers. They'll separate husbands from wives. They'll even separate kids from their parents. They'll work in those kind of ways to accomplish the greatest level of darkness and to bring up that current. That's what the books actually say. So because of that, it becomes very important for us all to realize that if we're divided in the community and we can't agree, even if it's, let's say, a temporary disagree or a moment where we need to become more aware of certain kind of knowledge, let's say that, then we have to agree, let's say, to not separate from each other. But of course, that doesn't happen. So we have all these different factions, and Flat Earth has become a faction. And anybody who doesn't support that kind of starts getting pummeled by them. But the more that anything fires upon us, the stronger we grow, because that is our design. So we've got quite a few people in the community that actually have come from communities that don't consider things about your diet, don't consider things about just all out how are you going to look in front of people in the open. Do you know why secret societies were actually really created? They weren't created by people that were just trying to do dark things. In fact, that was never their origin. Secret societies were created when religion started becoming placing laws, which was almost in the beginning, that you could not follow anything but that religion. So other societies, like ones that believed in astronomy, had to come together secretly so that they wouldn't be seen as being against what the edict of the kingdom was saying that people should do. Now, this was a way to also check people, literally check them. You worship this. And because just as the Brahmic books state that whoever is the leader, you should worship their God because they are God. So with that going on, when people were practicing anything else, it was seen just like you were just doing what Father told you not to do, which would get you killed. Because there was like well, if I let them do it, then everybody's going to think they're going to do it. And you hear that all the time, especially in the older movies. So this is the first foundation to real secret societies when that whole secret thing started. So it's important to make that very clear. So now we're revisiting Flat Earth. And what this literally means is I need to explain to people, which I did. I actually have recordings of just exactly what I know about it from my own source, higher self. I just ask. I can ask anything, and I've asked a lot. And when I ask, they intend to take me on the experience. So it's not like, I just learn from a book. It's almost like, well, let me ask for this initiation and let's see how it goes. So I asked for an initiation into Flat Earth. I asked my higher conscious, what is Flat Earth? Now, first of all, as I said on my recordings, already done years ago, is that I believed, based on symbolism such as D, V, D, right? And that being in itself, that's how you write a D, that's how you write a D, and then this is how you connect it, right? That this disc was something mysterious, that this thing was like a UFO in a symbolism of a ship or a sham. And I also know the Merkabas and all these different things, these vehicles all seem to relate to this thing. So when I asked about flat earth to my source, is this real? It said, this is how it works and this is what you need to do. This is what it's shaped like. And this is how it explained it to me. Like a spindle. And just like you put disk on a spindle, the same thing that you deal with right now with computers, this is how the design is. And where you are is like here. And all the people in this area on this part of the disk are suggesting to you that they know everything. However, they would at least need to be here before they even knew a little bit about something. And so what you need to do is you need to go here in your consciousness, which would be to the center. And then you need to go up one level. It did not say to the top yet. Go up one level, go here, and then come stand out here, and then issue edicts and decrees to those that are in this land about what you've done. And what this means is basically it's like a clearing of your books. Now, this is exactly what Higher Self told me. Like, me, Higher Self, man, we cool. So Higher Self was like, this is how it works. So I followed those instructions and I went up here. Now, since it's disclosure day, I will tell you that nobody, I believe, well, I won't say nobody, you never say nobody, but I will say 80% of flat earthers will never put their ass on the line as much as I put my ass on the line about flat earth. I was in front of Giselle Bunchkin and some astronomers and some archaeologists who happened to be also there at her house explaining flat earth, holding strong. Okay? So you could imagine how much energy was pummeling me when I'm trying to explain to these humanitarians the earth is flat and it's really shaped. So I went in. Okay, so but what happened though is when I was always interacting with the community, there was also so much other stuff that was mixed in there that was not true and was not what was transmitted to me and was a direct psyop according to the paperwork. So what am I going to do? I already said what I had to say. You saw the torsion field. Now, here we are. The reason why we're revisiting this is because our great brother, Martin Kinney, he decided to stay on it. He decided that just as like we fire each one of us on this ship, all of our stuff into one direction, he fired it into this direction and actually was able to crack the cosmic clock with the conscious collective. This is a vectorization of his map. And we're going to talk about this in a minute, but we also are going to run a video here in just a little while. This is our brother, Martin Kinney. As I said, you can check him out on Facebook, like, subscribe, just let the brother know, we're supporting his experience and his quest in the collection of this knowledge and information, as we all come forth. I got to commend the brother anyway when you build a model. I even going to make a meme out of this. I got a meme that says, my meme says, the look on your face when you figure this shit out. But then I just, okay, maybe I'll take take that into another context. But that's my meme. Because the brother was able to put together the model completely to show this experience, but also crack into other things like, as we're saying, the people out here, kind of like what history is said about their involvement and what goes on in here. So the whole story, right, which connects dots for you, because when you start realizing things are not as far away as you think, you start realizing who you've been talking to when you say higher self. And where is that actual higher self? You get this triangulation of how species connect with human beings, how we exhibit traits that do come from animal kingdoms, right? Is it wrong to think that the Lemurians weren't possibly lemur and simian? Is it wrong to see the caste system still affecting the real monkey tribes today? in the wild that still affects the people that are also connected with them genetically? Is it wrong? Or is it time for a whole nother level of knowledge? Of course it's time for another level of knowledge, the end of knowledge, which is wisdom. So now we get to the wisdom, and we have this year stretched out in front of us because, like I said, today wasn't a day to exhaust, let's say, any of the topics that we're bringing forth. Just know we're ready, and we have many with us, and the power in which we need to amass to accomplish the quantum change in this world is amassing fast and accumulating. Let's put it that way. So here we go. So the next thing is that now that's what we can say is the spindle theory, okay? Because now there's variations of now how we understand the vehicle. So since we understand that this Solomon temple, this great builder's work, this tower that keeps being mentioned is none other than the human body, which everybody knows here, we know that there's different ways and different aspects of understanding the knowledge that it reveals to us, this Kabbalah, that you could only learn by listening to yourself. Or resuscitation, okay? Meaning it needs to be delivered to you from yourself to yourself or someone who knows it. So now what we generally see here to sum this all up, in all the spindle theories and in all the different concepts is the same underlining principles. That energy functions through poles, and the poles are electromagnetic. And what creates these electromagnetic fields is the positive and negative judgments and actions of movement. And only in the gap, which is exactly inside of here, and there's multiples of these and they're quantum, does life really exist as we know it. And that is where we are. We are in the gap. And we are acolytes of the gap. We surf it. And only when you start rubbing the edges up in here do things get to where you wreck your vehicle. And so just like you wouldn't let a 2-year-old take off in your car, so too you have not been allowed access to the Merkaba, really, or the internal Merkabas, which have several different names and are explained in different ways, until now. The gates are wide open. So you have the opportunity to dissolve all of your judgments and your disconnections so you can oscillate and vibrate, right? Oscillate and vibrate to get yourself and your field picked up so you can fly. This is now really detrimental. You have to go. You're going to go at some point anyway, but right now is the best time because remember, meaning not like now, meaning now is the time to start getting yourself together to make the transition for your consciousness. Like if you always have struggled with having the, what word am I looking for? You know, just like the motivation, you know, just to even fast, you know, like, why am I doing that? I'm just going to be hungry for 7 days. Yeah, I'm going to feel better and enjoy some, but everybody's still going to be the same. People are still going to piss me off. So this removes that as your reason why you should do it. And it puts something much more grand, a great reward right in front of you. Because there's a lot that's associated with this symbolism, as you'll see in Martin's video, that has a lot to do with the Christmas tree. That as you get these counter-rotating fields, you know, and they're larger and there's larger, and each of these, this is a nest, by the way, fullerene-like boson, right? So in these nests, which is how you create monatomics even, and in that center column, you know, that level of existence, and I, you know, just think about words here, but anyway, let me keep going. So this is what we would call a torus theory. So let me finish this, first of all, before I go off. Now, each of these circular fields or circumventing fields, if you saw this from the top, it would look like a Christmas tree. And all the lights in the Christmas tree would be the souls. So this is why it's symbolic today of the Christmas tree. But what have they done with the Christmas tree. They've cut it. They've cut down the evergreen. And I can show you through occultism how there's proof. Just like it's symbolic that the umbilical cord is cut from the mother when the baby is born, so too many souls have been cut from the energetic system and need to reconnect themselves and can reconnect themselves by vibrating higher. And this is the only thing that needs to be done to change the entire scenario or probable futures of this realm and this reality. But remember, there's gifts here under the tree, right? Because all this now, we know the meaning now. This is the symbolics of Christmas. Right now, killing the Satan part or Santa, right? And what those words really mean, like old father, like the real bearded, wise wisdom side versus the consumer Black Friday side, right? So there's gifts at the tree. So what this tells you is that when you unlock this, there's a promise of a reward, but you don't know what those rewards are going to be. You can look forward to it just like a child looks forward to the presence of their tree. But right now, though, what's happening, and this is why the energy is just off. People, because consumerism, the inverted tree is now out. And people are unhappy about what is under the tree. Because for them, they already know what it is. First of all, if they want anything in a consumer-based reality, they go get it. They don't wait till Christmas. So generally, you don't know what to give somebody that has every single camera and every single cell phone that ever came out. So the reality also is that this has the person looking at this box, and this is how it can turn around into something demonic. A box that they can't see in, but they know inside is unsatisfaction. Right? So there's a lot of deeper symbolics also. Everything comes with electromagnetics. Everything comes, and you must know both of those. Because if you're just armed with the good idea, oh, Christmas, presents, you're going to be still doing the same thing when you're looking and staring down the barrel of some vinegar again, or a bag of chips. So if that's just how shallow you're going to be with it, is just electric, then you're going to miss out on the magnetic balance that is necessary to keep this thing really churning and really turning, so you have the power that's needed to go into unity. Because as you keep building up energy, your environment will change. The people around you will change. You will keep seeing then greater versions of people that you used to know. Like, I know that was Michael, but now his name is Robert. Now his name is Steve. Now his name is Cindy, but she's a woman. What's going on? Because as you're going up, the environment is really changing. You're actually in a real field with real stars. That's why I was saying, those as below stars, those are not the ones you want to be watching. The ones that are shining the light. Like, I really want to keep motivating you, full spectrum light, to turn this. Because when we turn this, we're turning the spindle. Like, this is the center column, and on the top, of course, is that the center hermaphrodite, right? Like Kenny cracked it, he was like, yo, that's Mercury. Excuse me, Martin, I want to call him Kenny because his first name is like his last name. I'm sure he gets that. But like, this is Mercury. But this is Hermes, right? The hermaphrodite. Or Aphrodite, right? An androgen, a sun moon. It's not a sun or a moon. That's not the name. A sun is a sun and moon is moon. This is a combination of the two, right? So this is the root cause also to the division, because when they split Atum, which we've talked about, now you become the death, destroyer of the worlds. You push an external craft. Explosion versus implosion. This is in the Vimana. This is the Vimana, right? Like, this is how they need to create another way to get everybody off of a planet onto another one. Okay? Like, now we're going to get serious. Literally. They had to create a way to get everybody off the planet, but people had no Merkaba working. Their spiritual progress wasn't ready yet. So some masters created the Vimanas, which are the huge temples. They make copies of Vimanas all the time. Look at Phenomenal Travel videos with our brother Praveen. Give me one moment. This is how, when you have to travel to another planet, and you have to do that with everybody because something is occurring that you need to move on. Because any master, you're going to know. You're going to get it in the transmission from higher self. Yo, time to move. Who's going to build the ship? Who can build the ships? So all of these temples are all mimics of the real. Let me open this up. The real ark. Okay? And you got your brothers and sisters gliding across space from another planet to get to Earth because something went on. Like, I've listened to not only so many people and read so many books and had so many experiences. This stuff will have to connect at some point. And somebody's like, where do you get this stuff? 20,000, homie. 20,000 and counting of these books. Like, still now, the wheel turns itself, so I'll be asleep. Like, no, leave me alone. I'm trying to sleep. And did you know? And it's like, oh, wow, that's one worth waking up for. So this is one waking up for. Notice how it feels right to realize this is a craft. Maybe this is even a replica, but a real replica of a situation where all that whole race needed to come from where they were here. And why would you come here? Well, to paradise? Right? Like, at some point, as you're going to see in Martin's video, Eve is whoever's in the center. That is Eden. Okay? And in that space, it's pure and pristine. So that's like already the knowledge that, hey, if we go into one like a little bit further in, it's going to be like mother's womb and getting in there too. It's going to be warm. They're going to have fruits. There's going to be a lot going on. And Martin says, there's even people that understands that that's what the Martian trips and things are really about. I agree, because they use the word colonize when they talk about Mars. They don't say terraforming, which is the word you use about when you're going to change the environment of a planet so it can be inhabited. Colonization means actually something specific. It means that basically a more primal being is there, and it's possible that what had been done to us is possibly about to happen to them, except for we prevent it. These are higher missions, side game, not just getting yourself together, but going for the whole shebang bang. Like you see brothers and sisters, instead of saying, well, no, I'm dipping, let's leave everybody behind. I'm glad my snake has risen and my birds are flapping. I told them. No. Like, you had brothers and sisters that were building shams and ships to, okay, Cousin Dante ain't ready, but I'll be damned if I'm going to leave him here. Let's get to this next space. So this is a part of the awareness.